Okie dokie. Hello. This is day 3 of Modern Love Q&A. I've got Simon Aitken here. I'm Claire Bueno. I should introduce myself first, shouldn't I? I'm Claire Bueno. I'm your moderator this evening. We've got Simon Aitken, director, producer and writer. Chris Grahamson, who is one of the actors. ADC, who's visual effects. Jaeson and Viriginia. Jaeson is animation and Viriginia is makeup. So welcome, everybody. Thanks for joining us this evening. And congratulations with the film. And we got there after 10 years, Simon. Are you, it is nearly 10 years, isn't it?
Yes,
are you happy that you're here, that your film's released, it's on Amazon? And is it nerve-wracking to think that this film now is out there for an audience to see?
It's funny. I think with Blood and Roses, it was quite nerve-wracking because that was my first film. But with this one, I'm just happy it actually got, completed and it's out there now, because it's been a while, and say it's a long time to be making a feature film. And so it was just, I'm just happy to have it out there now and people being able to watch it.
And enjoy it, of course, as well.
That as well. Yeah.
I can say that. Chris, your segment is 3 little words. Can you tell us a little bit more about why what attracted you to the story, really?
Well, it's I related to it. I mean, it didn't. We mentioned just before we went live about going into your character background, but it was sort of like I sort of knew. I don't know. I knew the character. It was quite easy for me to think, a lad who works in a supermarket and he's trying to do the right thing by the girl he's dating or whatever, and he's got a mate. I got an older mate who tries to give him advice all the time. That's that was pretty much my life when I was about 18. Yeah, I was working with Phil Snowden at the time. Me and him were doing Billy Elliot in London, and he said, "Oh, I want to do this scene. I think you'd be good for the part." So yeah, and he was ready. It's a lovely simple tale. That
and do you think it helped as well? Did it help as well that you and Bill were already friends, so you've got that relationship already established? Because it's quite an intimate friendship. It's intimate conversation between 2 male friends, isn't it?
Yeah,
talking about love, which is not something that we talk about easily.
That's true, and I suppose the sort of old cliches that blokes don't really talk about that much, but I think they do. Again, my experience with a guy. I had my mate, my best mate at the time, who still is. We used to talk about that stuff all the time, and I'd always ask him for advice. So it did help that close, and we did it quite quickly, didn't we? We shot it, and we got some good stuff.
Yeah, I think we finished early that day. Yeah.
You don't hear that very often on a film set, do you? Finishing early. and for ADC and Jaeson and Viriginia, what did you think of the sort of screenplay as a whole? Did you find that it was a story that was very relatable? ADC, if I can come to you first.
Are you talking about before the production?
Yeah, the story as a whole before you sort of get to production, really.
Yeah, I wasn't really party to that. I came into the project sort of in post, really. Although I was being a friend of Simon's and we worked together sometimes anyway, I was well aware of what he was doing. But yeah, once I got involved on the post-production stage, it was more or less just working on certain shots rather than knowing what the story was. It's not something I really needed to know or want, really, because I just like to watch the film once it's completed, generally speaking. Yeah.
So I suppose that what you're able to bring then, working with Simon, is some sort of objectivity, and Simon will come to you with an idea and you can sort of look at it at a broader, kind of bigger perspective and go, actually, what about this?
Yeah, well, most of the work that I did on this was the kind of visual effects shots that you won't notice, really, kind of painting things out, covering things up, just to sort of not only give it a bit more production value, but also solve practical problems as well. For example, there was one location that we did fairly recently with Keith, where there was he's walking past some buildings, and there was the address of the buildings in the background, which you didn't want to leave in for various reasons, and so we take those out. So what I did on the film was not so much guided by the story or the stories themselves, but more in practical terms of actually sort of help refining the finished product, if you like.
But an out of interest is then how I know Simon spoke in I think Monday's Q&A how you'd shot on different mediums. You used iPhones, you used a D70, did you? DX70?
No, 7D.
7D.
Yeah.
So does the format that Simon's presenting you with give you different challenges because you are working with different mediums?
Yeah, that's a good point. It can do. Well, it does. But all of those sort of obstacles are not insurmountable. So it's just a matter of usually trying to, if you're trying to cover something up, then quite often then you've got to kind of match the grain of the footage, which will differ enormously using those sort of varying formats. And of course, the reason Simon used different tools on this particular film was because some suited the some stories, and another camera, for instance, would suit a different story. So so when you're sort of working on the post-production, you are sort of juggling with different formats, but technically it's something you have to sort of get right in order to cover things up that you don't want people to see. These days, with the technology we have now, it's a fairly simple and commonplace process.
Yeah, thanks, ADC. And I'm moving on to Virginia. You were makeup, if I'm correct. Did you do hair as well, or just makeup? You did hair and makeup. And I wondered, because we're dealing with your average person, how does that affect how you do the hair and makeup? Are you working with the actors because they've obviously got a specific idea of how they think that their character would what clothes they would wear, what makeup they would, and how they would have their hair? What was your relationship with the actors?
Well, there would be more up to Simon, really, because it's his film, so the look depends on him. But obviously there was a discussion with the actors and stuff, and we decided mainly natural looks for all the segments, because they're like everyday modern love stories. So there wasn't anything really overly done, quite natural looking, simple hairdos and stuff, and makeups. A bit more for the girls, very minimal for the guys. I didn't do all the stories. There are a few of them I haven't done anything for. But the ones that I did, I discussed mainly with Simon before we start the shooting there. And then on the day, sometimes the actors give some input. And we may change little bits and pieces here and there. But the general look is up to Simon.
Simon, did you have very specific ideas? I mean, because when you were writing the story, I'm thinking you didn't have specific actors in mind when you were writing.
Yeah, that's correct. I think a lot of the makeup we did was it was very just simple. It didn't have to be so dramatic or anything. But there was one short that we did where the makeup and hair was very much a part of the story. And Virginia, remember all the tests we did with Vivian for Unexpected?
Yeah, I do. Yeah.
I think the first test we made it look really kind of extreme, didn't we?
Yes.
Yeah.
There was that. Yeah. There was a bit of experimentation going on there. Yes.
Because she was saying as well. Sorry.
Until we found the look that everybody was happy with.
Yeah.
Vivian was saying yesterday, wasn't that there was kind of like a real arc in her story from where we see her at the beginning, where she's very kind of hard looking, sort of hard nosed businesswoman, to, you know, a much more sort of softer. And so I would imagine that's where there was a lot of room for maneuver.
Yeah, if you look at the makeup from that point of view, towards the end is a little bit more natural looking.
Yeah.
How in the beginning is quite a lot more like business. You know, I'm in the business. I'm, you know, a businesswoman. I'm doing the job. You know.
Yeah.
Things.
Exactly.
She get like a really strong eyeliner and stuff. While at the end, all this went away.
And in general, do you work a lot? You know, and I'm just sort of talking generally when you're on set as well. Do you work closely with wardrobe to know what kind of clothes they're wearing, so that you can have makeup that complements the whole kind of picture, so to speak?
Yeah, because obviously that's a whole look when you create a character. So yeah, you would consider the clothes that would go with that character. In anything, even special effects makeup would have to create one whole thing. So yeah, the color is also important because it would influence, you know, what kind of colors you pick for the makeup. Not to create a conflict, you know, with the color of the clothes.
Yeah, thank you. And Jaeson, moving on to you, you're the animator of the stunning animation at the end of the film, which really is a short story in itself, isn't it? Really, can you tell us a little bit more about the inspiration and working with Simon on that, and the techniques that you were using to create that, please?
Well, this is the part where Simon and I start laughing nervously, because to the passerby is an odyssey in itself. It really is. We started it bloody years ago, we really did, and it evolved. It became something else. The original treatment was very, what, 2-3 pages long or something like that.
Well, it was a script by Diana Ipolotia. I think I'm getting her name right. Called "To the Passerby." The story with that was that when we were out in Monaco without subtitles, I met her over there. She had a short film being screened there as well, and she wanted to do a project with me, which was the script. And I said to her, "Oh, you know, I'd love to do this." And I loved it to, you know, I was even back then was thinking about like modern love, and I said to her, you know, I'd love to do this. And we tried to sort of get together, because she's based over in the States and I'm, you know, over here, and it never quite worked out that way. But you know, I always thought this would be great as an animation, because the whole idea of, you know, how do you film on a London bus? Not only just one London bus, but 2 London buses. How do you film at a bus stop with people waiting for the bus? How do you keep continuity, because people will be getting on and off buses all the time, and you know, in between takes, you know. And I thought, well, animation would be a way of doing it, and no, it came out really well.
Yeah, no, it's absolutely stunning. Where did you kind of get the inspiration from regarding the style, Jaeson?
Well, originally we were going to do it. Simon said, in the style of Studio Ghibli. That ain't going to happen. And we were going to do it full animation. I mean, if we can do a file share at some point, I'll show you the original boards. And then I suggested we use a software called iClone by Real Illusion. and I could do all the virtual sets and that. And it was going to be 3D animated characters in it, but they didn't look very good. Again, it's something I'll show you. And then I saw a way out, a shortcut, where I said, well, why don't we animate the storyboards and do it in the style of those? Because that's what everybody remembers me as a storyboard artist. So it became like a 3D set, but it looks as if it's drawn by me. And then the characters were just flat planes running through it. And the camera angles would sort of show them up as if they were 3D people. And that informed the story itself, because a lot of things changed. There was going to be a lot more characters in it. But because you're keeping things in storyboards very minimal to draw them as fast as possible, things like crowds were taken out of it. They were there originally, and then they got taken out, and it was simply the girl herself running through to the bus stop. The bus was a generic model that I found online, and I changed all the textures on it so it looked as if it was made from paper with pencil marks on it. And you did swap things around, like on the bus stop. You can see that Simon's face is on the side of it.
Oh, I know, that was cool.
Little things like that. It's just things that you can drop into it that it doesn't become too sterile. But at the same time, I mean, like I say, we started it years ago and we had big ambitions for it, and then other jobs would come on, and then as it got more ambitious, my hardware just couldn't keep up with it at all. So, but then I started working at a games company, and I used the hardware there, which was top of the range. Yeah, and just as we were the last 4 scenes, which included the dream sequence and the big shot at the end, COVID came along and I was no longer working at the studio. So talk about falling flat at the just before the finish line. But I upgraded, started again from scratch. Well, not quite from scratch, and then we managed to get it in. If Simon hadn't given me a deadline of the 14th of February, though, I'd still be damn well working on it. But yeah, it came along. It happened. I'm happy with it. The reactions to it have been very, very good. I think when I was working at Supermassive, the game studio, the guy sitting behind me was the art director for Alien Isolation, the game, which is he got huge awards for it. And I sort of cautiously leaned over to him and said, "Do you want to see my shit animation?" He looked at me over his glasses and he said, "You're not exactly selling it to me." And but he did watch it. He watched the first 7 or 8. The dream sequence is the 8th sequence. So we were up to about 7 at that point and 2 after. And he liked it. So I felt encouraged by that, and more people saw it as well. I'd been hiding it away up until that point, but they looked at it, they liked it. That encouraged me, and it gave me a bit more momentum to actually finish it. And I'm glad it did. And it fits with the. It was going to be a standalone sequence, but I think it works better over the end titles. I think that was a really good decision.
It really does. You said you got some examples of the artwork that you can show us.
Yeah, let's see if we can share screen.
Yeah, that would be amazing. I'm sure. We've got some comments coming in from Keith. Thank you, Keith. He's saying that the makeup in his case was very natural. What can you say? You can't improve on perfection, Keith.
Simon, you didn't tell Keith about the digital touch-ups we had to do on him.
Were you airbrushing Keith?
Only mate.
You can share
if I go down here like that, let's see what we can do.
I should have got you working with me, if that's a service you offer.
I can't see the screen now because I don't have 2 monitors. Is this coming up at all?
Not that I can see.
Nothing that's coming.
What can you see on our screen at the moment?
I can just see the 4 of us.
Yeah.
Right.
But nothing on our screen, is it just us?
It's just us 4, because I think we've lost somebody.
Yeah, we've lost Chris.
I think we've lost. Oh, he was having trouble with connecting.
Yeah.
I think.
Is there not like a button at the bottom that says share?
Yeah, I'm just.
Oh,
Is that it there?
Oh yeah.
Here we go.
Oh,
Here
there
we
we go.
go.
Hey,
we
fantastic.
Okay.
Well, this is a real treat. ADC,
was
no
good.
pressure. We're going to get you to do the same.
Yeah, we've got some photographs
this
from
is
the shoot as well.
fabulous.
So that was the very first
Oh.
sketch that we did, and that was the girl. That was some of the sketches we did for her. That was a very early test, and it was trying to look like a chalkboard, but yeah, no, not quite. If we actually show that,
Oh God, yes, the early
Oh,
tests.
God,
Yeah,
that is
the very early
amazing.
test this year's running. And if you, I'll come back to that in a minute, but the taxi is actually the taxi that you see at the start with Ben
Oh, of
Shockley.
course. Yeah. Do you know what? I hadn't put two and two together. You see, that's attention to detail.
Well, if I go back here, where are we?
It's such a unique idea as well, that whole story, isn't it?
Oh yeah,
yeah. I like the story because it very much just it just said everything without using words.
Yeah.
Is that Ben?
But, if you look very carefully at the second scene in the animation, you will see Ben actually driving past.
That's fantastic.
And I just thought it was a way of bookending it all.
Yeah, absolutely.
There's all the.
I was a bus driver. Yeah.
Oh, that is absolutely superb.
There's all little things like that. Just.
So for you to draw that original concept, I mean, how long would that take you?
Oh God, it is. I mean, if everything's in place and you're comfortable, it comes together fairly fast. There was a lot of planning to do beforehand for the 3D sets, but it did come along.
We've got a question. We've got a question actually coming in, and because I don't want to miss this. It says, were the characters based on real people?
Some of them, certainly Ben was. A few of the passengers were people that I knew. There we go. There's the original board, so you can see there were other people sitting at the bus stop. Whether there was going to be clever things like raindrops, the bus. Then we go into the dream sequence. That was very roughly sketched out beforehand, and you can see a lot of things changed. They changed in the storyboards, and then they changed in the actual animation itself, just for brevity. But there was going to be a big ending shot where it actually pulled up, and you saw the two buses splitting either side, going down different roads. And then as you got further up and looking down in the city, it was actually a heart shape.
Oh.
The roads actually became a heart shape, and it was defined by the rear view lights, the red lights, brake lights would actually make a red heart.
Oh.
So, and here was our other. There's keep on the side of the bus stop, yeah. And that was.
I love it.
It's going to look like. Didn't really.
Yeah.
Really work out. Oh, here we go. So there she is running for the bus.
Yeah.
Fantastic.
I think why Keith was in there was because we were going to do like the credits with people's names.
Yes.
As part of
they were going to be on the side of the bus, billboards, on phones and iPads and things like that. TVs and shop windows were going to be the cast. That was just as we decided we were going to use it as the end titles, weren't we?
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah. It works better as title boards, split either side of it.
Yeah.
It really does.
Well, I mean,
was that one part of the story, really, Simon, where you had to just let go, hand it over to Jaeson and let him work his magic and just have complete sort of trust in what he was going to deliver?
Well, I mean, we had everything was storyboarded, so it was kind of like all there. So it was very much like Jaeson had sort of set out what he wanted to do, and I was very happy for him to go off and do it. I mean, as I say, for the story, I loved about the story is the fact that it's the whole idea of we see people on the street all the time, and sometimes we see somebody who might glance at us or give us a smile, and you think, what would life be like with that person? And that whole the whole story was kind of like that. You don't really know the people that you see every day, and it's and it's in the story it's shown by the fact that the guy's actually blind. She has no idea who he is, and so it was so really well done. And again, it's just like no dialogue. There was nobody saying, "Oh, why are you doing this? What don't you realize this person is like this and that?" And yeah, and I thought just the animation came really well. I thought it did really well.
Did as well. Do you think because you started it 10 years ago, we all evolve as people, but have you evolved as a filmmaker, and how did that change how you then your approach to making modern love really?
It's a tough question to ask because it's I don't kind of self-reflect. I've always gone for what I thought is a really good story, no matter what. So I've never stuck to like one genre. So when I did Blood and Roses, it was an idea that an actor friend of mine, Ashvin Kumar Joshi, came up with, and it was this wonderful idea about what would happen if his original idea was that the man and woman, man suffering from cancer, and a vampire comes along and says, I can cure him. And I gave this to a screenwriter friend of mine, Ben Woodywurst, and he came up with he took that as kind of like the first act, and he just ran with it. And it was just I loved the script, and it was like, yeah, this is what I wanted to do. So when it came to this, it was just like each story was a way of experimenting, trying different things. And but I as I say, have I grown as a filmmaker? I don't know. I guess so. I think that's for other people to say. Really, I don't know. I think the tools have certainly changed.
Yeah.
I mean, the tools have certainly changed. I mean, when we shot without subtitles, we used a Canon 7D, a stills camera. And I remember the year before that when everybody's running around with these things, and they're like, "Nah, this will never work." And then, funnily enough, I got my hands on one, and it was like being back on a film set again. So I really enjoyed this sort of new digital revolution, because we already had the digital revolution when me and Andy first started. Back in, what was it, 98? That's when I did Panic. I was back in 98, and we were like shooting on DV cameras, and that was supposed to be the digital revolution. And then it was HD cameras, HDV, and then it's suddenly we're shooting HD, 4K, 2K, 8K. The technology has caught up a lot. I mean. And for for at least amount of money as well, because my first feature, was the budget was like nearly 40 grand. It was a lot of money paying, just for using, and it was my own camera as well, but using everything to get a filmic look out of it. And with these with the still cameras, it's very easy to do.
And I suppose, talking about independent filmmaking as a whole, ADC, is there a beauty about working independently? Yes, there's not really a lot of money to throw around, but everybody's in it because they care and because they want to tell a good story. Is that something that is quite unique within the kind of indie filmmaking circuit, really?
Yeah, I mean, you're absolutely right. Of course, you're kind of doing it for love, whether it's your own project or someone else's. That being said, we'd all like a bit more money, wouldn't we? That's the hard part, is getting to the dollars, and so that your limitations are imposed by your budget, of course, but your creativity is given a little more free rein usually under those circumstances. And of course, if you're producing production, as in this case, then you're kind of not reined in by any kind of production company demands. Simon could basically do what he wanted. He had free rein to sort of paint this picture how he saw fit without any sort of interference, and that's always, I suppose, one of the main advantages of sort of independent projects is that you can do what you want. So yeah, I mean, that's always got to be a good thing. That's always the biggest benefit, I suppose. And Simon's been able to sort of do this exactly how he wanted. Could he have used more money? Yeah, of course. You can always find other things to spend the money on, and increase production value and things like that, or even marketing, and for when it's all done, or but or even just paying people. But when you are doing it this way, then everybody is in it together, and I think you usually people seem to be more passionate on these kind of productions as well, because you get a little bit more, I don't know, authorship in a sense. Like Jaeson was talking about the animation, you're asking if Simon gave him sort of good free rein. So I think you do have a little bit more authorship in these kind of productions, and it gives you a bit more self-worth, I think, when you see the final result. So yeah, I'm always happy to do them, if I can, time permitting and work permitting and all that kind of stuff. But this is certainly a really good project to work on, because it was quite old and ambitious, and I just really like the nature of the project. So I thought it was quite timely for Simon to come along with this idea, and yeah, it's really cool. I'm just really happy to be a part of it.
And Virginia, you've seen the film from beginning to end, I hope?
Yes.
Yes, fantastic. I just wondered whether there was a particular storyline that you liked or you enjoyed.
I just want to say it didn't look like I imagined it would. I didn't imagine it cut in the way Simon did it, but the way he did it was brilliant. So I was got by surprise at the way the whole thing was cut, but I thought it really worked lovely, and I really enjoyed it.
I suppose it's created some intrigue, Simon, because everybody who's been a part of each little storyline,
yes,
is completely isolated from the rest of the film. So when they sit down and watch the whole film, they can be kind of pleasantly surprised, really.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I wouldn't say I did that by design. It's just the way it works out.
Well, yeah, I mean, when it comes to kind of the edit, did you always envisage that you were going to tell these stories in one block? I mean, I know like Keith's John 007 story kind of is a storyline that threads through the film, but had you an idea of maybe doing it a bit like Love Actually? I don't kind of want to use that as an example, but there's a similarity there. The stories are interwoven a little bit, or had you always envisaged that they were going to be separate
right. I have to say, I did kind of see it as them being like their own little stories, like one after the other. So What happened again. It's like everything with this film. It kind of evolved when we shot online. I didn't realize how long it was going to be. I must admit, I thought it probably would be about 10 minutes, and it turned out to be half an hour. First time around. So I thought, well, the way it's shot as a video diary, this would work as segments that you could have playing throughout the whole film. So I thought, well, we can do it like that. And then when I went back and reshot it, we definitely had that in mind. And it was also trying to sort of, as people say, to weave through the different stories. So they kind of were connected, not connected, but kind of connected. And so they had the similar feeling. So if I always try to go, a storyline that's kind of good and then a storyline that's kind of bad, it kind of just sort of a sort of level playing field, and trying to do that as much as I could. And then having seen what the film was like with Keith weaved in and out, then I decided, well, I need a story that, we can have at the beginning to sort of introduce the whole idea of this, what these stories are going to be about. But the ending was always kind of there as a plan, because I remember quite early on telling people, oh, I'm going to get you to come back and we'll do a scene at the end where everybody's there. And I worked with, before Paul Rippingale, I worked with quite a few other people to get a song written, and it never quite worked out. So it was, it was a gift that Paul came along. Not only was he, a good actor, but also could sing, and I also had a friend who could help him write the song.
Well, that's again, that's indie filmmaking. It's kind of improvising, compromising, and everybody helping each other out, isn't it? Really, yeah. Chris, are you okay there? You're having connectivity problems.
Well, I don't know.
Nod for yes, for no.
Are you coming through all right?
Excellent. Can I ask you a little bit about putting Simon on the spot here? What was it like working with Simon? Is he a director that just allows the actor to kind of do his thing and work their magic, really?
Yeah, I would definitely say so. Yeah. I was sort of thinking about that before today, thinking, if someone asked me that question, what would I say? And it left us to our instincts, which is probably the best. Well, not the best thing, but certainly when you've got a day to do something. I mean, as actors, I guess we're used to relying on instinct. You sort of realise that's probably the most valuable commodity. I mean, there was.
And did it? I know that was your scenes improvised as well.
No, it was pretty tightly scripted, to be honest. Yeah. Simon left us to it, which was.
So there's a time lag, so I'm trying not to kind of interrupt. This is the wonders of modern technology, isn't it? Really, I feel like we're on dial-up. What's home media minefield? Awful. What's that? My interviewing. What I liked about your storyline, Chris, was this kind of feeling that time is precious, and if you've got something to say, you should just sort of say it, really, and kind of be brave enough to take that leap of faith. Is that something you saw when you read the story?
Sort of good. My character was about good intentions, faced with someone who had experienced that in a really different way. Is there just that one moment where he, right at the end, he goes, right, phone. That was a lovely bit to add because it was just that one action rounded off all the scene. Yeah, I guess it's quite. I mean, everything reverberates at the moment, doesn't it? Because of the times we're in, but with lockdown and what we're all going through, that point is ever pertinent, is it? Isn't it? And this pressure, that struggle feeling at the moment is that we're all sort of wishing time away a bit because we really want normal life to come back. But I think that's quite painful for people, isn't it? When you realise you've wasted time on important things in life. It's quite.
And I think, you know, what you're touching upon there as well is the beauty of this film is that it's kind of reflective. It forces us all to kind of think about romances that we've been in and relationships and choices that we've made and things that we've done and things that we've put up with for so long. I mean, all of these stories are very relatable. Jaeson, is that something that you recognise from the film?
Oh yeah, the stories are very broad. I think that's there's a universal appeal in there with all of them. We can all see little nuggets in there of things that tragedies, triumphs that we can. I mean, personally, without subtitles and Hotel Rendezvous probably have some resonance with me. And mine, maybe not so with mine. I mean, it's kind of like I don't want to say it's a one joke because at the core of it, the dreaming that the girl does in it is something that we do. We daydream. So that's the one that I really needed to nail was the dream sequence with this flurry of ideas that just suddenly goes past, and you've only got a moment to do it in. So yeah. But all of them, they all complement each other well, and they don't overstay their welcome either. I mean, it's just Chris's in particular is absolutely, it's like, oh God, it's two guys sitting talking. This is going to be terrible. No, everything happens that needs to happen in that script, and like you say, you get the bittersweet little ending with that. With the one with what's his name, Matt Prendergast.
Yeah,
yes, that's right. That was the Hotel Rendezvous.
Why isn't that guy doing more comedy? He's brilliant. God, he handled that well. He really did. This desperate creep. He's really, really good in it.
I also give the fact that for the first bit, the one moment do you think that it's going to turn out the way it's going to turn? You don't. I mean, I've known Matt for a little while, and especially through his work from Brainhound, and he did really well because it's that whole thing, that whole balancing act of being this kind of, he's being romantic and meaningful and everything about let's run off. And then when it comes down to it, it's like the mask is dropped. You get to see the real person.
Yeah.
And it just goes from bad to worse. And it's just a credit to him. It's a credit to Petra, and it's also a credit to Antonia for writing the scripts, because all those elements came together, and it made that such a good story. But I have to say, with Three Little Words, I worked so hard on that script because, as I've said before, dialogue has never been my forte. I find I write better with images and actions and what people are doing. But when it comes to dialogue, so I have to say I worked quite hard on that short just to get it to a point where it's like, okay, I'm happy with this. I'm happy that it's hitting all these beats and it's moving along at quite a nice pace. And then also I love what Chris and Phil added to it, because I did not add the word spag bowl. I had never heard that term before we were filming. I'm like, what the hell is a stag bowl? Is this a northern delicacy?
And what was your choices for doing that one in black and white?
Oh, I love black and white. I love shooting black and white, and
it does create mood and atmosphere in a very different way to color, doesn't it?
Yeah, and it's just a gut feeling. I didn't, as I say, there wasn't a roadmap for this at all. So it depended on what I wanted to do. So black and white was again another way to experiment, and I only used it for this one and for the one that got away. And I thought just because that would work well with stills, because I love black and white stills. I don't know if you can see behind me, but that. There we go.
I don't know why I'm moving my head for.
It's that whole screen left, camera right.
Yeah.
I have a.
Not going to make any difference.
I don't think people can really see it, but I have. Let me just. Can I? I think I can. Just no, I can't do it. But anyway, there is a picture of John Landis in the wolf pen, an American Werewolf in London. And
amazing!
I was helping a friend of mine, Paul Davis, out, who did the documentary about it, and there was one of these screenings of it at the London Zoo, and they had all these sort of pictures, dotted around all the place, and I'd helped out shooting an interview with John Landis, which was absolutely, if you John Landis is exactly what you think he's going to be, and
he's a really lovely man.
Oh, he's brilliant, but it's like trying to nail him down on things is really difficult. I just love this photograph of him in the wolf pen, and just the fact that they actually built that for the film. There isn't an actual wolf pen at London Zoo, but it's just the whole black and white photograph. I just love it. Sorry,
I was just checking. No. I was sorry.
He owes me ice cream, John Landis.
He owes you an ice cream.
I still hold a grudge about
that. He would be the first person to put his hand in his pocket and pay for it. In fairness, I know that from a personal thing, but
he
he's
held
lovely.
Up the queue. He held up the ice cream queue because he was just telling a story again.
And that sounds about right.
Met him at Ealing Studios. Met him at Ealing. Oh my God, he tells stories constantly. And they are incredibly funny.
Yeah, no, he's really very genuinely a nice man. Virginia, I just wanted to ask you, because we were talking about still photography. Did you do the makeup for the one that got away, which was built on the story is told in a series of stills, and I just wondered whether do you do makeup differently for when you're doing still photography for motion picture?
I share the credit on that one.
Oh, okay.
On that one. Well, I wouldn't say you do that much different for still photography, but as it is black and white, that has some impact because you need a bit stronger makeup if you want it to show as a strength. But yeah, we still kept it fairly natural. Yeah, just a bit more exaggerated, so it pops up on the black and white.
Yeah, thank you. And just because we're sort of getting up to the hour, so I know this normally takes quite a long time, but I like to ask everybody if they've got a lasting memory of working on the film. So if I can start with Chris, have you got a lasting memory, and what will you take away with you from working on Modern Love?
I think just like the impactful will be
no, the sound that you're breaking up really badly. Do you want to try again? You poor thing.
Yeah. I think the timing of it being released has been felt like a bit of a gift for me. So I'll take that away. At a time when a lot of actors are struggling to get some work, this has given me next back into some work I did, and also maybe a little calling card as well. So yeah, I'll take that away.
Thanks, Chris. And ADC, what will you take away with you?
I think it has to be. We were finishing the last. Well, one of the. Was it the last shot last week, Simon?
Yeah, it was down to the wire.
There was some painting out of signs and things in one of the scenes, and I ran into some problems with that. It turned out to be a lot trickier than I'd anticipated. So and then I had some sort of transmission problems as well. So getting it over the wire to Simon, that took some time as well. So we were quite close on that one, but we got there in the end, mate?
Yeah. and Jaeson, what will you take away with you?
Finally getting my first real animation credit that I'm not working with somebody else. It's all kind of mine, and it's not horror related, which is mostly what I work in.
Yeah.
So nice to have that in my CV.
Fantastic. Virginia, what would you take away with you?
I've always enjoyed working with Simon, and it was long, but it was very enjoyable. And I will remember all these different locations and lovely people I met during the shoot, and the fantastic final result.
Yeah,
it's a great thing. It's a great thing to have your name on. I'm really happy and very proud of you, Simon, with what you've done.
Oh, thank you.
That's lovely. And your makeup, by the way, is beautiful, because I noticed that on the film. It really is. And Simon, what have you taken away with you? You don't get away with not answering this one either, because you've got to think of something different every night.
I do. What I love is I never asked for this, but the Easter eggs that both ADC and Jaeson put in the film. Because I didn't ask for my face to be on a billboard. And also,
you're infamous now.
No, but I mean, also what ADC did for the opening shot of Three Little Words, because we had to replace the for sale signs and stuff on it, and you put Nick's name down on there. And for people who don't know, Nicholas Hughes is me, ADC, and Nick. We were once upon a time the Three Generals when we did a short film together called Good Cop, Dead Cop, and it was a sort of that was like years ago. And I think last time I saw Nick was at the screening of your documentary about all the Alien fans, and I was just expecting some sort of generic pub name or something, and you put Nick Hughes on there. And I was just like, oh, okay, that's I love that.
That your lasting memories.
My lasting memories.
Also, you've had the opportunity to work with some great people behind the scenes as well, haven't you?
Yes, and in front of the camera. I mean, it's I've been really blessed with this film, because a lot of people have helped out, with casting suggestions, locations, with crew and everything like that. I mean, when I did Blood and Roses, a lot of it was kind of from scratch, trying to find crew and cast. Some of them I had worked with before, and some I hadn't. And it was, it was a lot more. It was a lot more intense, that film. I mean, it was 3 weeks in Cornwall in the same location, shooting there and living there. And with this one, it was a bit more. We can breathe.
Yeah.
We're only shooting this for a couple of days. and then there's a break, and it's not like we shot this one story and then we had to go and shoot this story and this story and this story. And the nice thing with this project is that I've had the time to actually,
allow it to
think,
evolve.
let it evolve. Think about it. Change. I think this film would be a lot different if it was all shot back to back. It would be a lot. It would be a lot different. I don't think it. I don't know what it'd be like.
No, but I think there's a lot to be said for divine timing, and when it's meant to come to fruition, it will, won't it? Really, I mean, but the main thing is that you owed it to yourself and to everybody else that participated in the film to get it finished, and you did. You've got to be very proud of that.
We also had some crowdfunding as well. So for those people who actually put money into the film, we had to I felt responsible to get the film finished. I mean, I could have quit any time, to tell the truth, but I guess it's just not the way I'm built, because when I start something, I try to finish it.
Well, you have. I mean, there's the proof of the pudding is in the tasting, and so we can now see Modern Love on Amazon Prime, can't we?
We can.
Yay! We can indeed. Well, ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much for joining us this evening. Simon, Jaeson, Virginia, Chris, and ADC. Big round of applause, and thank you for sharing your stories with us.
Yes.
Take care.
Thanks.
Cheerio.
Thank you.